somebody's grandmother sees it and they're like having a bit of a fit in the audience, like, oh my god. And like a few of the comics love that in the moment, but if you take away a whole table, they can sometimes take away the night. So
that's the tension between you as the comedian, the artiste, and you as the producer is like, I need to sell tickets to people in the future, and you just walked a table.
100%. And like, I think
if you've ever wondered how shows get made, this is the show for you. Welcome to The Means of Producing. Hi everybody, welcome back to The Means of Producing. This is a vidcast show about producing, where I interview local producers and they ask them about their shows and we chat and it's fun. It's nice. It's a nice time. Today I have local producer and comedian Todd Butt. Everybody say hello.
Hello everybody.
Hey.
The crowd loves me.
The crowd loves you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Todd, who are you?
Honestly, I'm just a guy who at one point thought he was kind of funny, and then I tried to do comedy, and then I realized that just because you can make your four friends laugh doesn't mean you're funny. But there was a bug that was bit, and I was like, okay, I can figure this out somehow. And from there, just started sticking with comedy, and then in a small town, we had a few people come and go, and when they were going to leave, they're like, hey, I have this show, I don't want it to die, and that's how I picked up my first show.
Okay, and let's go into that. So, like, how long, timeline-wise, how long have you, since, like, you started stand-up?
I think it was 2017 area that I started, and Chris Dunn was doing this like first timer show after Yucks had shut down here, because I heard the story like, oh, Yucks is shutting down, and I was like, oh, I really wanted to try comedy. And a friend of a friend, Graham, was like, oh, I know a guy doing first timer shows, and I signed up on that, and then after that, you had ran the Wednesday mic, and then there was the Thursday mic by Lynch at the time. Mm-hmm. So from there, I was just like, all right, I'll try to sign up where I can, and yeah, that's kind of where it started.
And you were doing that for how long before somebody left, bequeathed you the keys to your... That's how I got my show as well. Liam left and he just gave me the keys to his show. So.
Well, that was kind of like, I messaged Liam. He's like, hey, actually, I'm going to Toronto. You're going to have to message Veronica for all this in the future, but see ya. I think it was over a year, because like in my first year, I think that's where you have like a lot of hope as a comedian, because you're like, oh man, in a few months I'm going to be great at this, and I'll be, booking whatever. And then, like, you realize the effort of trying to write a funny five. And then, especially in our environment, there have been times where we've had, like, 5 mics a week. But that kind of always goes back down to 1 or 2. And we'll always have 1 or 2, but it's like each week you might get 5 minutes if you're lucky. And then if it doesn't go well, you're like, okay, am I trying that same set next week at the risk of seeing somebody from before?
Yeah, exactly. Like you have 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes max per week. If you get on with a low number of slots available and a high number of people who want to participate, you might only be getting maximum 10 weeks or 10 minutes, which is nothing in terms of practice.
It's crazy. And I think so it was in the first year, I did a show at Jack Axe's, because I just had a couple drinks and I was there one night, and I was like a bit brave enough to be like, hey, start doing comedy, looking at a room to do a show, wanted to do a April Fool show, so we did a midnight show at Jack Axe's on April 1st. So I've never done a midnight show since then, but somehow the first show we put off, we ended up selling like 40 odd tickets at Jack Axe's, and it went over well. I might have had you.
I think I was on that show, yeah.
I think it was me, you, Hammond, Lindsay, who had left, and it was the 4 of us that way. And then from there, I just kind of kept sticking to it. And like you said, that Wednesday room that you had was then given off to, I think it was like
Barrington and then
Barrington to Lindsay to me. And I think it was about a year into me doing it. And then I was kind of like, felt burning out to be doing a weekly show, because the back and forth of making sure you can get people to be on the show, but then also dealing with like the comedy HR at the time, where it's like, oh, you didn't put me on. It's like, well, you signed up a bit later than everybody else. I'm just trying to give it a bit fair shake. And then, or sometimes there'll be a lineup that it's like I got everybody that I could have had, and somebody's like, oh, why didn't you have more other comedians? I'm like, because we had 7 people that wanted to show up. I'm just here for a Wednesday night. I'm trying, but
Yeah, you said comedy HR. It's funny, when I started, the thing that was always said was like, there is no HR in comedy, and that is totally fair. So as a producer, that kind of falls on your shoulders, and sometimes that can be really tricky to negotiate when you're just a guy or you're just a girl who's like, well, I just want to tell dick and fart jokes.
Yeah,
but
I just want a few minutes where we can all come together, and then you hear everything in between of, oh, I don't want to be on if so-and-so's on, or it's like, oh, why'd you book so-and-so? Honestly, they asked. They said, do you have time? I said, yes. There wasn't anything nefarious behind it. But again, I think the thing to juggle was just like planning each and every week, but then at the same time being able to pivot, because like even with the show coming up this Friday, but you're on again, congratulations. At first, I had 2 other comics booked, Paul and Josh, and then the day after they confirmed, they're like, I have to apologize. I'm double booked already on that day. But at my point, I had already sent out a couple of the ads with names on it.
Right.
So I just said, hey guys, like, don't worry about this. For the next like 24 hours, it still might just say your names everywhere.
Right.
I'll change it, but the day is still the same for me. So in that world, I was like, all right, well, show's still going ahead. Is anybody else available? And I think that unique thing here is we are a bit smaller. If everybody does the Friday end of the month show or a similar thing, if we had 3 shows, that's taking up most of the available comics that Friday night. Again, smaller area than like
there's a smaller
big
talent
cities.
pool.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think, there's only a small percentage of people that want to consistently go out and stand up in front of people. Like everybody might have a little bucket list, like, oh, I want to do comedy, and they'll do it once or twice and they go, check, I'm done. But then there's some other people that just like going in for pain each and every week. They're like, yeah, I'll go back to the dive bar and see if anybody yells at me unrelated to comedy.
Yeah, and you need like that's really good practice for doing these blind shows that you don't know who's in the audience. It's just like, okay, there's going to be a comedy night. You need to make the people in the audience laugh regardless of who they are, right?
I agree with that. I think it's one of those that as a comic, you can come prepared with your whatever your set is. They said you got this much time, come prepared. But if you got 7 or 10 and you notice that the audience, it's like the first comic that had very similar jokes, maybe it's time to pivot just before your set. And like it's easier to do that the more experience you have, because you might have some jokes in your back pocket and be like, oh, they like that Tinder joke, well, I have a Tinder story, or just something like that. And there are times that you can look at the audience and just tell the age demographic. You're like, okay, they might not get all that Game Boy references because everybody out there still calls it
They're
Pokemon.
all on Switch.
Yeah, it's just like you got to look at the audience and then be like, okay, you can do your setup sessions and be intelligent, but if they don't know the topic that you're talking about at all, it doesn't matter if you swing back. And I think that's one of those that, as a comedian, you can appreciate somebody else's joke for like how good it was on a night that it failed. Because we've all seen somebody do their 5-minute bit, crush, do that 5-minute bit, the next room, same set, just didn't go over so well. And it could be a myriad of reasons, and then
the context changes so vastly. That's what's fascinating about stand-up.
Yeah. Oh, I remember we were preparing one year for the last comic standing that Bree was doing, and it was the week leading up to it, so I knew my set wasn't going to change much, but I did the Peter E. mic, and then I think at the time it was still Aaron's, so that area of comedy. I went to the Peter E. I did what would be my last comic set, and it was the most disruptive, like not a single laugh, people just yelling at each other about whatever bar antics are going on. And I did the same set the next night, and like thankfully I was like, okay, let's just stick with it, try it again before I edit anything. But the next night the audience was like prepared for a comedy show. And I think that's one thing I've learned, that like don't surprise people with comedy. Say, we have a show here, this is what's happening. Never like, if you have a show like online, there is like a bit of bleed into it from whatever event or nothing could be going on. Somebody could have just came out for supper at 8:30, and if I'm starting at 9 and there's that little window of they got in, they got their order, some food's coming, and then I show up, I'm like, hey, we got a show starting at 9 o'clock. They're like, I didn't know. I'm like, okay, well, show starts, monthly show, and I just try to sell them on We have local or traveling comedians, some up and comers, some new, some talented, some that we've never seen before. If you're interested, I got about an hour-ish show, $15, $20, whatever the night of. And then I leave that decision with them and walk away, because most times you're like, oh, it's a comedy show. There's this like fear, like, oh, I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to be made fun of, or I just don't want to deal with like a bad show.
Yeah, and St. John's is really unique. Well, can't say that it's unique because I haven't been off island that much. But what I find, one of the things that is challenging about comedy in St. John's and in Newfoundland is that, as you said, we have no comedy club specifically for comedy. We have a couple of long-running comedy rooms, but very often, if we're producing our own shows, like a little pop-up show, a one-off show, they're not there for, the audience is not there for comedy, and you have to sell them on comedy in the room right now. We don't do carnival barking, like barking on the street in St. John's, but we do sometimes do a little bit of like schmoozing in the room. You have to be like, oh, hey, I noticed you're enjoying your supper, but would you like to stay for a comedy show?
And it's one of those, you can see their eyes light up and they look around the table like, we're not doing this, right? And you're like, no, come on, it's going to be great. We got da-da-da-da-da. They've done, and like, it's funny because I think the ongoing joke is that like Canadian comedy anyways, if you say, oh, here's this Canadian comic, you'll get who? And it's, unless you like popped off on Facebook in the last few years, but like the main...
Tyler O'Day, Eelfield.
Oh, yeah. But like, I feel like... other than that, the old goal was that, okay, I'm going to get popular and then I'm going to go tour in the States or get something down there, or just like hit the road. And I don't know, it feels like that's always been like part of the Canadian entertainment problem, where somebody's like, oh, I like that show, but have you seen what they're doing down in America? It's better. And you're like, please, I'm trying so hard.
Yeah, it's different. You know, we're providing local perspectives, local stories. We're people in the community. I think that there's a place for everything. But yeah, absolutely. There's, especially growing up, there was very much this sense that if you wanted to make it in arts, you had to leave. You had to leave not just Newfoundland, but you had to leave Canada and go to Los Angeles or New York or London or somewhere like that. Yeah,
if you're not in the big city center that does arts, where they can pull from 1,000 different shows and projects that are being worked on. Yeah,
and 10 years after being in comedy in St. John's, I have to say they're right. Leave here now.
I've only ever heard somebody, so Adam Christie was also saying that, like, he had told a lot of people, like, you need to leave, you need to go and write. And then Matt Wright didn't listen to him in a sense, because he's still here. But Matt Wright is a successful comic in all. He
tours all over,
right? And it's just that, like, I think the main thing he was trying to get across is like, you don't need to move somewhere to get good. You can get good wherever you are, but you're going to have other struggles along the way, whether it's nobody's going to know you, or you're going to a smaller pool, or if you're going to put off a show, you're going to have to lean on yourself to like kind of start it, at least moving in the right way. And I think that's one thing too, that I thought after doing comedy for a couple of years, there'd be more people saying like, oh, I have this show over here, like, let's go do it. But then you kind of realize there's the same group of you still pushing and trying to get another show running, whether it's a weekly, monthly, or a one-off. And other than that, I love when I see like new comics coming in, because I'm like, okay, it's like fresh energy. Hopefully they're going to start a show now too. But like, I also know the actual drain and strain.
It's very challenging. Producing is very hard.
Yeah, when I did get to that tired out point of after doing it for a year on the weekly, that's where I teamed up with Vanier and Sarah. And it was just so, again, like, I think most times we would all still be at the show on the night of, but somebody taking the charge the following week on booking, or just some of the like promotion as well. And like the little back and forths of all the nitty gritty that you got to figure out. When it's a team, it's a lot better than it's just coming down to you. So it was one of those that if I were giving advice to a new comic and you're like starting a weekly room, maybe do it with a friend that you trust and want to work with, because like there's going to be the times that you're just not feeling it, or there's a lot of work that came down to it that you're like, oh, there's no way I can handle this by tonight.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great piece of advice that I had not considered. I'm really bad for, and I think that this is again a Newfoundland thing, but I'm really bad for. Look at this system, right? This is a one-woman show that I set up everything on my own because I'm allergic to asking for help and relying on other people. But I think that is a really good piece of advice because especially as you grow, the show becomes a little bit bigger, the demands become a little bit bigger, and it's good to ask for help. And then both of you are getting some experience out of it, right? That's really good.
I think it's going to come down to, like, in the beginning, there's going to come the question of you'll find a venue and they're like, okay, well, we only have 12 chairs, so you're going to have to bring your own. And you're like, oh, I didn't even consider that. And then you're like,
you're going to have to bring your own mic. This is why I have my first mic, because I did shows where there wasn't a mic.
I have a mic stand, and even for my current show that I run, the only thing that they can't provide is they have lights, but they don't have a light for a comedy show. So it's like I could have the whole bar lit up, but nobody wants to laugh if they can be seen laughing. So it's like I try to kill all the light I can. I rent a light for that show, and I just put a spotlight on the performers, and then that way, if there's a joke that somebody doesn't want to be caught laughing to, they can hide in the dark, you know? Yeah,
people do laugh harder when they're in the dark, and they also laugh harder when they're drinking. Great producing tips. Yes. Make them drunk and hide them away.
Exactly. They're going to have a great time.
So that was like your origin in starting off, and we went into a lot of different directions. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for that. Do you have any particular memories of like a good time that you had producing a show, like a standout memory of producing?
I think it would be more that like there's some nights you just have the fear before a show, because like I've had days where the night before the show I have 2 pre-sale tickets and I'm like, am I really going to get 3 people to go 40 minutes out of their way for 2 people, and I'll drag out a light and a mic and set up, and then by the night you show up, you do another 20 tickets at the door, you're like, oh, 22 tickets, that's a great night. I can pay everybody, I don't have to worry about it. But like, I feel like that's one other thing on the Newfoundland side, like people like buying tickets when they know that's what they want to do, and they'll usually wait until see if there's anything else going on that night and then make their decision. So
everybody in this province has ADHD. Dude, nobody can make plans.
No, not at all. They're like, when is it? Oh, and how many times have you said, oh, I missed your show? It's like, well, let me know when the next one is. And I'll usually say, last Friday of every month now, because that's the one. And then you can really tell, like, some people are sincere about it. They're like, oh, great, I'd love to go. And then others go, oh, no.
Here's another question that I haven't asked anybody else. Do you have, as a producer, advice for comedians starting out? Like, what do you, as a indie producer, what are you looking for bookable people?
Honestly, is my big thing. So I'll watch the local shows, and if I see somebody new and they like have a couple good sets, like the thing is, there's always the risk in hiring somebody, and then that night they don't hit it off. Whatever the reason, at the end, you hired somebody, crowd didn't like it, and then it looks like you had a bad set within your show. The only thing I try to do is like I'll pay attention to the newcomers or people I've worked with in the past, and just kind of have an idea of like what they're offering, and then I'll be like, okay, I want you to do this much time at this event, and as long as they have a prepared set, I don't care. Like, yes, I want it to go well, but I don't care if they did 7 minutes and it was just 7 minutes downhill. But there's a way you can tell if somebody's actually like having a prepared set or just like kind of looking around the room. And like, even if they are like a stylistically wild individual, like as a comic, you can kind of start seeing better preparation in some sets. Just some of the jokes line up, or that the callbacks are like, oh, that was prepared. And like, it does happen in the moment, but mine more or less is like, if you're starting off, just like work on your set. Don't be afraid to redo that joke you tried last week. Yeah, write some new stuff as well, but ultimately nobody's going to remember your bad set like you are. Like, I've seen certain comics kind of have like essentially a little break in being like, oh my God, that was so bad, because it's a newer person and maybe they liked a couple of the other local comics on that night, and they're like, oh, I'm on this show with so-and-so, and then I did bad. I'm like, hey, you're the only one that's going to remember this. Like, just go home and work on it. And there was one local comic I told that to, and he reached out to me after. He's like, yeah, that really helped, because like I was kind of demoralized after that set. I'm like, yeah, but we've all had bad sets, or we've all shown up to a set thinking that we're going to do better than what we end up doing.
Yeah, that there really is a sense when you're starting out that the 5 minutes are the most important thing you will ever do. And at Aaron's fogged up open mic, like, you're permitted to suck a little bit. When you're starting out, it's okay to suck a little bit. That's fine. Everybody expects that out of stand-up. And it is my belief that you have to suck a little bit to get better. I think that you need to get punched in the stomach at least a couple of times emotionally.
No, I agree with that. I think there's one thing that happened, at least in my experience. I started at a first-timer show. So I said, hey, I'm doing my first-time comedy. A few of my friends come, but that's kind of the same for everybody on the lineup. And I think everybody in that audience is a bit different than like a regular comedy show, because they're all hoping that their friend does well. Like, they're fine that if anybody else does bad, but everybody's a bit more supportive as an audience. You're less likely to get a bad heckler there because everybody's under the assumption, oh, they've never done this before, like there's no point for me to be that guy. Additionally, they're there to laugh and make their friend feel good, so it's like kind of this safe environment to start. But then you can have your next night at an actual open mic where maybe the audience is mostly comedians that are there to just test their own jokes, and like comedians are one of the worst audience members because like until you're up on your set, you're just like mulling through your phone. Or,
the comedians don't count at a comedy show. Don't pay attention to them.
And like if they're looking at their phone and you're like, oh man, I thought they would pay attention to my jokes. Not until they're done. Like there's no other way. I do it myself too, and I'll try to be like, oh, I know my set that I'm doing. Like who cares? But if I'm sat down at the show, I'll start rewriting the set and just be like, yep, I know it, or is there anything I want to change or work on? And in that moment, I can't really pay attention to anybody else's set because I've just kind of like tuned out for a bit.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ninepenny Brewing, the show at Ninepenny. What is your show? It's comedy at Ninepenny? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's comedy night at Ninepenny. Just to give clarity on that, so when I used to do the Wednesday show, when it was the Levy, and then it was Valhalla, and then it was... each time I tried to do some fun name with the show and the bar, but I've never had a bar change owners so many times while I was there. Because I was like, it's the same bar, it's the same show, but now we got a new name. And then like even when I was given the Ninepenny show by Andrew Kay because he did 2 shows and then he saw that ad on Facebook like come to India and he left for 6 months.
Yeah, Andrew Kay I think has at this point given 2 of my guests shows.
Yeah, he starts a show and then he sees an ad that's like explore the world. He's like, I might as well do that. And he just goes away. But yeah, no. So at the time it was just he's like, yeah, we got a comedy night at Ninepenny, and like he gave me there was an orange ad that I'll use sometimes. That's the one that he had previously. And then I did the pink one just to have a different thing for people to see. I'm at the point now I need to change it again, my own opinion. Yeah.
Do you have any like plans in mind for Ninepenny? What's I've done the show several times, and it's in a brewery. So do you have any plans for like future shows down the line? It's usually a pretty standard host, middle, headliner show, right?
I've had plans to do other shows in the past, or we wanted to do like a Survey Says, not Family Feud or anything. Survey Says. But some of those more elaborate plans, when you get them in place, you get everybody's time scheduled, and then if you figure out that the one that was going to do the tech resources of certain shows is now no longer available, it's sometimes a harder pool to fill, and it's just one of those that if I do me as a host and 3 comedians, I know that if one of those comedians bail out, even in the last minute, I do have like a small list of you that I'd be like, I need a favor tonight. Like, you got 10? Great. Can you come out? But I think like my biggest thing for it is I just kind of wanted to keep the show going and have like a paid show for like local comedians. And like, fortunately, since I've started the Ninepenny show, I've been able to pay any comic that's been on the show, and I haven't went red yet. Now, there are nights that you'll have an incredible night. You sell out and you have a full house. And then the following month you have like your lower ticket count. You got like 12 and you're like, okay, well like 12's still a good show in a small bar because you can set up the tables, bring the crowd up. We'll all have a bit more of an intimate time and just like kind of address that. And I think that's one thing, like, I would love if the show stayed at steady rise, but it's never a steady rise. It's a lot of up and down, figuring it out. And like, I have some regulars now that I'll see more often than ever before, but you can't rely on them because everybody could be busy that week with their own life, right? So again, main goal, just keep it going. But I think ultimately I just wanted to have like a paid room that we could all kind of rely on for consistent comedy. And one other thing I liked about that, it wasn't directly in St. John's. We're slightly out, and I figure that's like
out in CBS.
CBS, yes, it's not that far, but there's this there's a common problem of everything gets booked to be downtown St. John's, and if you live 30 minutes outside of town, you're like, oh, I don't want to spend $100 in cab fare to go to and from for an hour-long show.
And so, as we've established, people laugh better when they're more drunk.
Exactly. If you're spending $100 on cabs, you're probably just going to drive yourself and not drink. But yeah, no, I just wanted to make a room to actually like look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it would be fun to have like theme nights. Yeah. I think that if you themed your comedians, or that might be something fun for your show.
Theme nights I've used in the past too is kind of a way to get certain comics on, because some comics material might be a bit more darker and grotesque for people, and as a comic you can love that individual's work because it's just like it's written so well. But then somebody's grandmother sees it and they're like having a bit of a shit fit in the audience, like, oh my God. Oh. And like a few of the comics love that in the moment, but if you take away a whole table, they can sometimes take away the night. So that's
the tension between you as the comedian, the artiste, and you as the producer is like, I need to sell tickets to people in the future, and you just walked a table.
100%. And like, I think as a comic, I can understand there's two sides of the conversation, but I feel that some people will be like, oh, that table sucked, I walked them, got rid of them, like, or you got offended during your set and then you took it out on one table that might have enjoyed the other three acts. Now, look, I've had bad audience members, I've had bad comedians. It's never just one thing, right? But I think there's been this reliance on, like, you can blame the audience sometimes. And, like, I even kind of referenced how my set earlier for the Last Comic Standing at one show to the next was very different. Sure, the night wasn't the best night and there was a lot going on, but some of the people that were paying attention would still be able to appreciate the joke, and you can kind of see that more in the moment. Yes, there are times you'll have an unruly guest that, you know, they would ruin any event they were at. It's not just the comedy room. But I think the main thing is, like, if you have a bad set, don't initially blame everybody in the audience. Like, just rewrite, try again. And if the jokes don't continue to work, maybe it's not the audience and just try another new joke. And, like, I think the other side of that is after you get comfortable and have a few jokes in your back pocket, that's fine. But, like, I got sick of my own jokes again recently because I was doing a lot of the same things that I knew would work because I had a couple beats to those jokes, and, you know, I'd be 3 minutes into a 5-minute set, and the first 3 minutes of the newer stuff I was doing wasn't that great. So I'm like, oh, well, there's an audience here. I feel like I owe them a couple of jokes. So I do something that even I probably look bored now doing because, like...
Yeah, I definitely, I feel that. I get sick of my own jokes, absolutely. And I do write. I write new stuff all the time, but I will write something and then I'll perform it and it didn't get what I wanted and right away, and I've lost the skill. I need to relearn the skill of eating shit a couple of times to get better. I'm just like, no, it didn't work, I'll throw that away. Yeah. And I really need to be like, oh, that worked a little, because honestly, a lot of the stuff that I'm working on, it'll get a little bit of something and I just need to workshop it and practice it. But it's so easy to rely on your old material.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and like maybe it's that we'll end up having that premise. It's more of just a nose exhale of a joke. Like, that's it. And you didn't put more effort into it because when you wrote it down, you're like, oh yeah, that is funny. I'll get something out of that. And then you stood there and you're like, I didn't prepare to get something out of that.
Yeah.
And like I think that's one of the standard struggles of it all, really. It's just that, like, it doesn't matter if you wrote something good before. You got to figure out how to do it again, because like you're saying, you can be like, oh, this is such a funny premise, and if you get a minute into it and the crowd isn't receptive, maybe you're just not confident to continue with your next couple jokes you had on it. And again, I think that's one of the, take my own advice from earlier, I'm the only one that's going to remember it as a bad set, so just do it, get it out. But there's that moment of, you're like, okay, you didn't like anything, let me go back into those 3 jokes I've told for the last 5 years that every comic is going to roll their eyes when they hear it again.
The comics don't matter though. But yeah,
No.
that is exactly the case. And at an open mic, it's really hard. At a showcase show, where it's a small town, it's also hard because like you're getting returning customers and you're always thinking, have you seen me before or have you not seen me before? Yeah. Like people don't remember your next set to an extent, but am I boring somebody by doing the same jokes over and over again?
And like I've had some regulars be like, oh, I heard that one before. And like you're saying, it is one of those that on a prepared showcase, you might have some of your old material, and by chance that's the material that they saw you do those 2 times they've seen you before. Now they're coming to a 3rd show and you're like, I broke my hip when I was 13, now I'm as level as a downtown house. They're like, thanks, Todd, we know.
We've been doing those jokes in this city for a long time. If we went on the road, those are brand new, fresh strokes, right?
Exactly.
And we might have a little bit more of a spark, but being on the island, it can be a little bit, it feels a little bit isolated sometimes, and a little bit like, oh, we have to always write new stuff because there is only so many audience members and they can only stand our jokes for so long.
Absolutely. I feel bad for Tim and Lindsay on the Elixir days when we did downtown comedy every second Tuesday, because they would come out most of those Tuesdays, and then you would see them again. You're like, oh, I really can't do, because they were at the time most of the audience. I'm like, I gotta give them something. I feel so bad. I think that's one good thing now about errands too, with the time of year we get tourists. Even like Thursday past, I closed out that one and I knew half the audience was from a vote or from away, so I was like, they don't know any of my jokes. This is great. But yeah, that was also the show that, just as a sidebar, that show Rick Mercer dropped into, which was deadly. That was insane. Like I walked in and I thought I had seen, I was like, oh, that guy looks like Rick Mercer. And then I checked the list just to be like, hey, Vanny, I'm here. Who's on? And this is real? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And there's this moment where midway through the show, you're also watching Rick Mercer perform. And they're like, they don't care that I'm going up. Who the hell am I? It's like Canadian icon Rick Mercer, and now Todd Butt.
But see, now you get to say that Rick Mercer opened for you.
Yeah, that's gonna be on the next the show. Bill, it's like, what do you want us to say about him? Oh, he runs a monthly, and Rick Mercer opened up for him. Oh, really? Yeah.
To speak to how hard it can be sometimes to produce a show, so Rick Mercer was on that show, and I went outside for some air, and there was a group of people outside who were also clearly tourists, and they were like, you came from inside in there. We heard that Rick Mercer was in there. Is that true? And I'm like, yeah, there's a comedy show. He's going to be on in like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, just go in if you want to go see them. And they're like, oh, no. And when he was on, they watched from the porch, refusing to actually go into the bar. And I was like, why would you do that? Like, clearly you want to go see the show and you want to be participate. Why would you not? Maybe it's because it was a bar. I have no clue.
I think they just wanted to see Rick, and once that was done, they'd be fine to leave. And like, some people don't like leaving whatever event until it's over, especially when the person on stage could be like, hey, where are you going?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. Oh, comedians, we are our own worst enemies.
No, and I think that was one of the crazy things. It's crazy that we'll sometimes have just like very talented comics drop in for a mic. Like, I think the other one that was odd to me, because I never thought I would see him, was the father from That's So Raven.
Oh,
he came out to Trappers one night back in the day. It was just like, how are you here? And how did you find the comedy show and somehow be on it? And it is fun. It's nice. And like, I tried not to fangirl on Rick when I saw him, because like at the end of the show he came up, he's very polite, he's like, oh, hey, great set, and shook my hand, and I was just like, I was like, see you, Rick. And I was just thinking like, yeah, like, how the hell did he end up here tonight? But it seemed like he had fun, and he said he'd come back. So if you're looking for a show, he might be on it.
Yeah. So it's a podcast about producing. Is there any final things that you want to share with potential future producers, with fellow producers?
Honestly, don't be afraid to ask the question of like, hey, do you want to be on my show? Because you're going to, again, there are times that the comic you're speaking to might be a bit past the echelon of what you're providing. Like, I'm a monthly show at the end of a month at a bar that nobody knows about unless you're in this town. Sometimes I have people touring, or they've been on TV, or they got a whatever special on this service or online, hundreds of thousands or millions of views. And it might be a bit daunting to be like, hey, do you want to be on my like nothing burger of a show? But if you open up honestly, just say, hey, I'm looking for 15 minutes. I can pay around this much. Would this work? Like, shoot it, shot. Like, worst case, they'll say no, and you got to find a new comic. Best case scenario, you have somebody you wouldn't have anticipated to work with, and then you can be like, hey, they were on my show when they were in Newfoundland, and if you end up wanting to travel, maybe that would work for you later on to be like, oh, I've worked with you before. Do you mind if I get in a set when I'm in town? And like, don't ever think that just because somebody had you on once, they're going to put you on their show in the future. But it's one of those that, like, if you work with somebody and you find out, like, oh, I do like that person, even as a comic or just as a person, it can go a long way with future shows.
Yeah. And when you're reaching out to people, I think it's like, that's great advice that you should reach out to people. How you reach out to people, I think, as a producer is important too. I often get like, are you available on this date? And I'm like, I would like a little bit more information. Mm-hmm. Like I'm available, but I don't want to go like an overnight.
Yeah.
If it's like, what's the situation?
How
right?
far am I going?
How far am I paying for gas? Am I going to drive myself? Am I in a car? Who's driving the car? Those are things that I might necessarily want to know.
Well, exactly. I had a similar thing happen where we booked the show in Greens Harbor, and again, communication just wasn't fully, like, we assumed more than we should have, because the guy that booked us, me and Vanier, we thought he was going to be with us as well. And then by and by, we saw on his social media that he was left St. John's, gone west in Newfoundland, and then like planning to leave and go further. And I'm like, well, maybe he's coming back east and then flying out here or something. Nope, he just booked us on a show in Greens Harbor. And we're like, oh. And like, it was one of those things that, like, when he asked me like how much, I was thinking like, how much for me to do a show with you? So I gave him a number. But then the price was, oh wait, I had to get myself out there and back. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to pay to go an hour outside of town for a performance and then just drive back in. Because like, I know some people think, oh, you're so lucky to get up there and do it. It's like, absolutely. But there was work that went into it, even if it's just getting you there, especially nowadays. We all can agree that, gas ain't cheap. So
yeah. I know that in comedy we're a business of like friendliness and entertainment, but there is still business there, and you gotta,
it's a business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, somebody might say like, oh, we had so many people there last night, like, why didn't I get like an extra few bucks? It's like, well, prior to the show there was a $200 poster, there was rentals, there was gas, there was everybody else that was paid. So even though it went well, I had an extra $32 that I could have spread out between 4 people. So sure, I could have gave you the extra $6, but even then, like, if I gave you 75 versus 81, it's the same thing. So sometimes I just try to be out front and say, this is what you're going to get paid. If we do really well, you might get a bit extra, but like, I set the expectation to be like, you'll get around this. I hope more, but normally, like, I'll just budget in what the average is.
Be upfront with people. This is a zero budget production. We're basing it off ticket sales. How many tickets we get is related to how you get paid,
exactly. Right? I'll say another one that some people probably won't say is just say no to some people too. Because I had somebody reach out recently and said, hey, like, can I get on Ninepenny? And my response was, honestly, I don't see you do comedy enough for me to be comfortable to book you. Like, if you're coming out more, like, I'll pay attention, not a problem. And their response was like, oh, well, yeah, if you don't want me, then you can't have me. I'm like, okay, not a problem. But like, at the same time, like, you might be working hard, you might be really funny, but if I haven't seen it, I'm not going to agree with just everybody that messages me to give them the time. Because like, I feel like after doing enough shows, you can realize if somebody says they have 10 or 15, do they have 10 or 15 of jokes, or do they not mind being up there for 10 to 15 minutes?
Yeah, 100% a very different thing. I've definitely heard people who say, I can do like 20 minutes of material. No, you can stand on stage for 20 minutes and you don't mind eating shit for a full 20 minutes. Yeah. That's not the same thing as being able to make an audience laugh for 20 minutes.
For 20, yeah.
Right, those are different things. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. That's some really interesting commentary and observation. I really like that. Yeah, just feel comfortable saying no. Be inclined to say yes.
Yeah.
A little bit of that improv spirit, a little bit of that yes and, but also don't be afraid to say no. But but I would love to see you perform some more.
And I think that that's the thing. If you can say but I'd like to see you perform more, and then they kind of go off the wall on getting a no from you, well, you made the good decision to say, I don't need to work with you. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, when you get there, it's a bit of work. Everybody thinks it's fun, but it's work leading up to the night, and until the applause at the end of the show is heard, it's not over. So
yeah, and you're both working. The producer is working, the comedian is working, so a little bit of co-working respect.
Yes,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Todd. Todd Butt, everyone. Todd, tell the audience a little bit more about pitch your show, pitch Ninepenny to the audience.
The last Friday of every month at Ninepenny Brewery, I will have some, whether they're up and coming, local, or come from away comedians brought to you in your backyard. So come out, support local comedy. Like I said, last Friday every month at Ninepenny Brewery. You can see us at 9 p.m. starting there.
Thanks so much, Todd. And
thanks for having me.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you liked this, please like and subscribe. I guess that's what you do on YouTube. I'm still so very new to this. Take care and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.